And the other thing is, we're talking about attempt. We only say attempt because you're still here.
Yes.
Well,
Okay?
and
but in fact,
it was
you did,
successful.
You actually
I died.
You died.
Yeah.
Yes. Welcome, Rocky. Welcome, Roxanna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So glad you guys could be here today.
Yeah.
So found it okay. I know sometimes it's a little bit. The hills have eyes coming out here.
Yeah.
No, we're familiar with the area, though.
We're pretty familiar. We used to live over by Arroyo Ranch, so.
Okay.
Just off 150. And then we used to have friends that lived in one of the developments just a little bit off of the curve.
Okay. Well, super excited to be here, and Podfather James over there in the corner there.
I see a shirt coming up.
Yeah, the founder of the feast.
Podfather, I like that.
With Go Talk Texas. So Podfather, I think, might be taken, but we could just have Rocky fight for it, and we'll do the.
I got my money on Rocky.
We'll do the old snatch. I'll fight you for it.
Yeah.
So this is our maiden voyage here. I'm Ralph Govea, Manvswld, Manvswld. We'll let the legal team figure it out. In partnership with Go Talk Texas, and we're going to be talking to a number of guests over a number of different topics. And today might be a little heavy, but we expect God to also be light. Mm-hmm. You know, He's the reliever of burdens for those of us that carry things that we ought not to. And so hopefully there'll be some good stuff there. But yeah, this is our first installment with Go Talk Texas. So super excited here today. Today's topic, we're going to be actually talking about suicide. And it's not coffee and pan dulce conversation usually. That's going to be a very light discussion. Happens to be the second leading cause of death for young people from the ages of 15 to 24 in a recent UCLA study. Number one being accidental deaths, things like opioids and car accidents and stuff like that. And our good friend Rocky here, I don't know if we want to classify it as a NDE, a near-death experience, but he committed suicide. How long ago was it now?
It was a little over a year and a couple months.
Okay, a little over a year ago. And we're grateful that he's willing to share his experience because, as the Apostle Paul said, I'll take pleasure in infirmities and reproaches and needs and persecutions and distresses for Christ's sake, for when I'm weak, then I'm strong. The reality is that nobody finds strength unless we all come to terms with the things that ail us. Mm-hmm. You know? And David taught us that giants only die when we don't run from them anymore. So grateful that you're willing to be here today and share your story. And, this is something that's really important because we don't really know who's at risk. Maybe all of us.
And you never know. It could be next year.
Most people, even in the little bit of research that I did, leading up to today, and I'm grateful that James, thought of me to have this conversation with you guys. Most people never see it coming. Everybody smiles, everybody smiles.
Yes.
Everybody
Yes.
Participates in life. They go to work, they go to school. You don't know, for all intents and purposes, they seem happy, fulfilled, and all of a sudden they're gone.
Mm-hmm. Top of the class.
Class
favorite, class clown.
We see, we see that even with our celebrities. I mean, some of my favorite music artists.
Robin Williams.
I'm a metalhead, and you see these people at what would be the zenith and pinnacle of life and success, and all of a sudden they're gone. So obviously there's something to be said about that. But Rocky, how did we get here?
Here now or like here then?
Yes.
Here then.
Then. Here then.
Here then.
Here then. Here then. I like
Here
it.
then. Awesome.
Well, just give me a rough of your upbringing, man. I mean, just
yeah.
You obviously got a cool mom.
So my upbringing wasn't exactly like terrible, but as far as, most kids in my generation, it's probably not to par with what we would want.
Sure.
My mom has been great my entire life. My dad is an alcoholic, and we're working on that right now. And I won't get too much into what it's like right now, but growing up, it definitely brought its own challenges. And, I remember waking up to my dad just, like, sitting on the couch, drinking at, like, 2 in the morning. He has work the next day, that kind of thing. And, it wasn't exactly the household that I think we wanted it to be.
Sure.
My mom
Masked it.
is with here. She did her absolute best, and she still does her absolute best, and I'm so thankful for her. But she can only do so much, and man, I gotta say, those first 10, 12 years up to 13 years old was rough. Like, right now, I would, like, economically and sociologically, I'd put us at, like, lower middle class. Up until I was maybe 12, getting into, middle school, we were, like, maybe middle, lower class, upper, lower class. We
lived in a trailer.
We were not well off. Like, okay, I don't like telling this story too much because it's kind of gross. But the bathroom situation.
It's life.
It was, so we didn't have a toilet at all. Like,
we had a toilet.
We had a toilet, but we didn't have a working toilet.
Got it.
So we would have to use our shower. And if we had to go number 2, we would just get a little plastic bag or some paper towels, put it in a plastic bag, and just throw it out like a dog. Growing up, I kind of just wanted to be like the other kids, because I went to school over at Negley, like a couple miles away from here.
Okay.
And all my friends were living in Plum Creek or over here, and it wasn't too great to have my friends telling me, oh yeah, my dad's pretty cool. I'm like, yeah, my dad's sweet.
Yeah.
But my upbringing was less than what I would have liked it to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think even as parents, some of us,
There's generational curses that have been broken and that are being broken.
Yeah.
And coming from nothing, even as a parent, as where we were.
Same.
And now, like, that was the beginning, because of course we had children when we probably should not have had children, and we weren't economically ready for that or financially ready for that. And the struggles that we did go through just makes what's happening now even better, because now we're in a house. We have a driveway. There's a sidewalk. We have 2 bathrooms. We have 3 bedrooms. Yeah.
We have a dog.
We have a dog.
I had a dog when I was little.
We have a dog.
But realistically, we should not have had a dog. Like, it was not a great place for a dog to live. But we have a dog now, which is really cool for me.
Well, it's funny because so I've been in ministry and I've helped people with. My family was homeless at one point, and I had addiction running through, our family and stuff like that. And yeah, definitely a lot of moments less than ideal. But dude, you seem pretty well-rounded, well-spoken. Good on mom. Good on you.
We talk about it.
All things considered. Yeah.
We talk about
That's a big part of it.
We talk about the struggles that I have, and then we talk about the struggles that his dad have, and we talk about it and how we're going to work together to make it better. And when they're younger and we're younger as a parent, when you're first becoming a parent, we don't want anybody to know those things.
Sure.
We keep that door shut, the curtains closed.
Yeah.
We don't want anybody to know that we're struggling.
Yeah.
And our eyes are open a little bit more now, and people need to talk about it.
Yeah, it's whatever, I'm 25 years sober now. I OD'd at like 15, 16, something like that. Went through the group homes. We were homeless at the time, lost our house through foreclosure. My dad's alcoholic, growing up, Vietnam vet, stuff like that. And I have a 16-year-old, just turned 16 today. I have hid nothing from him. Now I've spared some details, but this is an open book test.
Yeah.
Is kind of how, we approach things. Like, I'm not going to hide anything from you. Yeah. Open book test. You're sitting next to me. I'm going to let you look on my paper, and you're going to see all the things I got wrong. You have complete access, full access to it. I won't go into any of the gory details with some things because it just doesn't serve the purpose. But at the very least, my kid knows.
Yeah.
It's a big world out there. It's ugly sometimes.
Marriage is ugly.
Marriage is hard.
I mean, just
sometimes.
little
all of it,
things.
All of it. Like, but I've seen God redeem every single thing. I mean, the life I have with my kids right now, the 15, 16-year-old me, like, no, like if I showed up on, like if I showed up on my doorstep that talk, hey, is your daughter home? I would kill this kid. And like, no doubt about it.
I'm definitely like, I was just thinking about this the other day. If I as, like 6 or 7-year-old Rocky looked at a 17-year-old Rocky, he'd be like, what?
Yeah.
You were instructing at a martial arts studio? Yeah. You have a girlfriend? That's sick. You're living in a house now, like an actual house?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Like, you have a dog? Sorry, I keep going over the dog, but that's a really cool thing for me.
I know. Well,
I kept saying no.
Maybe after you'll meet my dogs, it sounded like they were trying to kill you guys earlier when you came up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
a little bit intimidating.
But it sounds like, okay, yeah, there's a lot of people who live through hard things that make it through. Some of them even without God, and I don't even understand now. I believe God's present in their life. They just don't know Him.
Somebody's praying for them.
Correct. Somebody's praying for them. God is, actively in their active working in their lives without them knowing it. So people survive some of the most horrendous terrain and navigate some of the hardest things. And some are okay, and then others are not, for sure. They just repeat the cycle, right?
Yes.
Like, in terms of generational curses, like I was a trash can as a teenager, and my parents had their issues too. And pretty easy for me to follow suit. Yeah. But leading to you taking your own life, like, it sounds, I don't know, just one of those things about growing up hard is no other way.
Yeah.
So you grow up, right? And you, like I said, I'm just my observance. We've only had a very small handful of conversations before this because I really wanted this to come out here. Yeah. Right. So there's a lot of things I'm going to hear today that I haven't heard yet. But you seem pretty well adjusted, brother. Yeah. Where were we when that happened?
I gotta say, I grew up a lot in the last year and a half since it. Where I was, just so that we have a timeline for everyone, I attempted suicide in May of 2022. So leading up to that, it was about, I'll just backtrack from that. So we'll start with February. February was, Valentine's Day. I had recently just gotten out of a not great relationship looking back on it. It wasn't anything too serious, but it was still not a great relationship.
It was serious. It was serious.
But
a mother knows.
Yeah.
But so I was a little desperate for just that companionship that I thought I needed. Yeah. So I was just going from girl to girl. I never really did anything physical with girls. But I'm a teenager.
Sure.
So
understood.
I won't talk about this too much in front of my mother. Yeah. So I was going through that. Before that, I had a lot of troubles with school. I'm not in particularly a special needs kid when it comes. I'm ADD, but I'm not
yeah. You're high functioning.
Yeah.
You're not,
I'm not
it's not debilitating for you.
There's no learning deficiencies for me. I just don't like school.
Sure.
And if anything, I'm good at school.
Yeah.
I graduated a year early.
Nice.
I for the most part of my school career, I was a great student. I mean,
He was gifted and talented, and he was advanced, which also led to a lot of schoolwork at this time, extra schoolwork.
So leading up to this, just so I'm following, had a girlfriend, more serious, according to your mom, than you're willing to admit, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. And a lot of pressure. With the workload and everything at school. Okay. And
other than that, you know, I was just, I was 16, feeling a lot of emotions. Obviously my home life wasn't amazing. It was, at that time, not nearly as bad as it had ever been. Like,
sure.
It was in...
We were good.
Yeah, in, like, comparison, it was pretty good. I mean,
we were good.
Still below the average bar, but, like, we were still doing pretty good.
Yeah.
I think the main thing that was just not there, I was talking with we just did a testimonial video for our church about this exact subject, and I was talking about this exact time frame too. God was not I was not with God.
Yeah.
And he, obviously God is always with me, but I was not with God. I wasn't actively trying to defy him. I wasn't.
You were actively trying to push him away.
Well, I wasn't, like, doing necessarily bad things, I should say. Like, I wasn't, like, doing drugs, drinking.
You were skipping school.
I was skipping school, but, like...
You changed your clothing.
That's true.
You changed your music.
That's true.
You changed your hair.
Well, it's cool.
Christine Kane referenced a verse in Hebrews saying that, you know, let us having the anchor. I forget what it is. You can edit this out later if you want. Anyways, she says something to the effect that all you have to do to drift is nothing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, but sometimes it's not even, you know, some big breakaway from God.
Yes.
Like this open rebellion, but there's a quiet rebellion that happens too, where it's just I'm just not gonna. I'm not gonna seek you. I'm not gonna acknowledge you.
I was definitely going through the motion,
and that's enough.
Hitting on that,
Yeah.
I kind of knew something was going on, and at this time there was counseling still. There was already medication. There was psychiatry. There was therapy going on. But prior to this, because of, I noticed something.
Yeah.
But we would go to church, and he would physically get ill, and he would have to leave. And there was a couple of times where we left early, like in the middle of church, because he was like, Mom, like my arm is killing me, Mom. I just don't feel good. I feel like I'm gonna throw up. Like there was just these active things, but he still went, and there was still going, like you said, just kind of going through the motions.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Were we at Radical?
Yes.
Yeah, so I would have been pretty active in the church at that time, like as far as
like you going to youth group, you serving.
Well, that was another thing.
Youth group wasn't necessary. So
youth group can be hard. Like
youth group, at least for me, was hard because the kids were kids, and like it was mostly middle schoolers.
Yeah.
And I was,
you're in high school,
like becoming a senior, getting ready to graduate pretty soon. So it was a little tough, and then obviously I was not in the particular mindset of, I want to do more God. I want to do more church.
Sure.
So I was just, but as far as like Sundays, I was all in. Like I was almost every single Sunday I was serving. I help out with the audiovisual at our church, and I was almost there every single Sunday. But I was still just going through the motions. Like, if anything, I was using it as an excuse not to actually be active in church.
Yeah.
To not to be present in church, to not listen in church.
So you were there.
I was
there, but I wasn't there.
Yeah. So, okay, so that's a big thing for you to know now, like as far as leading up to that moment, because that was going to be one of my questions.
Yeah.
It's like, where was God at this moment?
Yeah.
And obviously he was faithfully there, but you
I was
yourself
not accepting him.
you were not in cahoots with him. So give me more. Where did that
So
lead us?
we'll go a little more forward in time. So as far as like March and then like early April goes, I don't remember a lot of like early April at all.
And and part of that is because of what happened,
Yeah,
right? Like some of your
yes.
short-term memory
Yes.
was affected.
But from what I do remember, I was in my mind feeling better, but not like being better. You know, I'm sure you noticed, so sophomore year, this was my sophomore year in high school. I decided I was going to be as edgy as possible to just, I don't know why.
Complete makeover.
I was wearing a handcuff as a bracelet, which honestly, looking back on it, is pretty metal. Like, it's kind of cool, but at the same time, like, as a sophomore in
wasn't
high school,
Rocky.
but it wasn't me.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
where I noticed
Okay, so he
things.
started exploring some things in terms of
Which I was
his
cool
style.
Yeah.
We dyed his hair blue at one
Dyed-
point.
okay.
I that was stupid.
Did you wear spikes?
No, but I have a spike bracelet now, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I was just not me. And then like I think March of 2022, I kind of just stopped all of that kind of thing, and it wasn't because I was better. It wasn't because I was like, okay, I'm turning over a new leaf. It was because I give up.
He totally disconnected.
It was I'm not trying anymore. A lot of the times, so I have a lot of people in my life that have attempted suicide, that have self-harmed, that kind of thing. And almost every single person has, I don't want to say confessed, but like told me, and then like we've shared the experience of that moment before you attempt, or that moment before you're really getting close to attempting.
Sure.
Is when you seem the most normal. It's when you seem like, oh, everything's fine now. It's when, you know, I was dressing normally. I was doing better in school. I actually started going to school more often.
Hanging out with friends.
I was hanging out with my friends, all that kind of thing. But I wasn't feeling great. Like I wasn't. I might have, from the outside, been like, oh, this is completely normal. This is Rocky now. If Rocky's doing good, but Rocky was not doing good. Yeah.
So was it something that you planned? Like, was it...
The attempt?
Yes.
So...
Or did it just kind of like...
As far as I know, it was not. Like, at least the way that it went down.
So, okay. So, and the other thing is, we're talking about attempt. We only say attempt because you're still here.
Yes.
well,
Okay?
and
But in fact,
it was
you did,
successful.
Yes.
You actually...
I died.
You died.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I just wanted to make that clear for anybody listening.
Yes.
You know, this is the subject matter ultimately, is that you successfully committed suicide.
Yes.
Yes.
And the only reason why I ask is if there was any like real premeditation.
And there-
like I don't know, just to go off on a band rant, but you know the band Flyleaf? Or you ever heard of them?
Vaguely.
Okay. Bigger band in the early 2000s, but the singer Lacey Sturm had decided she was going to kill herself. And her grandmother like drug her to church or something like that. She didn't want to go.
I remember this.
And this old man in the church walked up to her and said, you know, whatever you're planning to do tonight, don't do it.
And I remember that night. And I remember feeling extremely exhausted from the day. And I remember my eyes being closed, and I think I fell asleep in the chair. And he came and he sat next to me, and I said, Rocky, I could hear you breathing. And later on, we found out he had pneumonia after on top of everything.
So even leading up to you actually doing that, you were sick.
He was physically
very
sick.
Okay, so there's a
And
lot of stuff at play here.
I didn't know it.
Yeah. And then,
Wow.
well, also, I think it was February or March. We thought I had COVID. Remember
Yeah, that was running rampant.
that short period.
Yeah.
So like for like I think it was almost a whole week, like 5 or 6 days. I was just locked in my room because I didn't want to get anyone sick.
Yeah.
There was a lot going on with me, but like.
But it was not premeditated. Yeah. This was something that was very much spontaneous, which after talking with therapists and a bunch of people, the word impulsive comes to play.
So, but one of the other things I did notice is that the pandemic totally exacerbated this type of activity.
Yes.
Our whole household was wrecked.
Everybody was affected in so many different ways, but even like suicides and things like that obviously were higher because people were shut in ways that
and Rocky's an extrovert.
Yeah.
No one. Yeah. No. I hear you.
I'm extremely extroverted.
So it wasn't planned, but it sounds like there was a lot of things at play. Okay, so if you're sick, you're already in a not going to be in a good state of mind to begin with, and then you already had coming out of some. It sounds like some depression.
Yes.
And then just you decided one night that's.
So, I don't want to say I decided one night because like. Beforehand, I was like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. Like it was. This is the way out. And I never. When I say it wasn't premeditated, I mean it wasn't. I wasn't gonna say, oh, I'm doing it this way, or I'm gonna do this way. It was. I'm just doing it eventually. It wasn't.
So you had that in your heart already. Like,
yeah, it was. It was like this is happening.
I want to end. I want to end this.
Yes, it was not like planned. Like I wasn't like okay. I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna do this. It was just this is happening. Eventually, it's gonna happen, and I didn't have like a time period or anything. I just
once I got a hold of the phone after we figured out how to get into it, like he's laid out. We don't know what's gonna happen yet, but he had to look. He looked up that night what to do. Mm-hmm. So we know for sure that it was just completely impulsive that moment in time that he didn't have a plan, and with what happened in his space that it happened, it was a fly. Like just this is gonna happen right now.
Yeah.
So, who found you?
So my sister was the one that threw up the red flag to my mom. And
she heard something very loud,
yes.
And she said that his door was locked, and he never locks his door.
And so technically my sister never didn't, or I...
She never saw.
She probably...
No.
She never seen... Okay, this might be a better question for my mom, because I was just out of it.
Yeah, of course.
If you want to take it.
Like I said, I was exhausted that night. I really don't know why, but I went to sleep early. So I think I fell asleep in the chair at 7 and got up around 8:30 and finally went to bed after everybody's like, okay, we're going to bed. I get woken up, I think it's like 9:30, and Bobby's like, I heard something. Something's not right, Mom.
Who's Bobby?
That's Bobby Lynn's, his sister. And they're 16 months apart, so they're like connected.
Yeah.
And she's like, I heard something really loud, and I thought it was a cat. Can't find a cat. She's like, and Rocky's door is locked, and he never locks his door, Mom. He never. And I'm like, trying to wake up. Yeah. I'm like, okay, well, and I get out of bed. I go and I'm like, it's locked. And I'm like, okay, how am I gonna get in here? First thing that popped in mind was a drill. And I saw it on the back porch. I had a little visual of the drill on the back porch. Run outside, get the drill that handle off. Open it up, and I don't see him. Small room. You see everything. And I noticed the closet lights on. And I immediately pushed her away and was like, go wake up your dad. And that's when I saw Rocky. And I immediately just started shaking and was like... into what needed to be good next.
Yep.
And do you mind me sharing what you did?
Yeah, if you guys don't want to share details,
I'm
that's
okay
fine.
with it. As long as it's like good for the podcast. Like
No. I mean, if you're comfortable with it, that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah.
He hung himself, and the hardest part for me is that he's a big guy.
Yeah.
So the next step was, how do I get him down? And his sister brought me scissors, got him down, and immediately started CPR. Didn't find a pulse. You can tell he'd been there for a while. And that's very relevant for the part of God being there.
Sure.
And looking back, because everything was in very much slow motion, but we're thinking it was 15 to 20 minutes that it took me to get into the room, get him down, and start chest compressions, because immediately I knew.
Yeah.
But after that, it was few minutes, 8 minutes before paramedics were there. And my husband brought his phone in because he immediately called, and he laid it down, and he was very upset, very upset. And immediately went into, I work in a preschool, so I've got the CPR, call 911, adult CPR in progress, 16-year-old, 250 pounds, chest compressions, no pulse. I immediately went into that. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting a little cold thinking about it, just because I should have been a wreck.
Yeah,
but God,
yeah,
he told me what to do.
Yeah.
And just immediately went into that.
You're uniquely qualified for that moment too. So
yeah. And it was just amazing how fast help got there. And the teams. Usually, paramedics show up and a policeman show up. No, there was teams of people that showed up, and we are literally 3 minutes away from the station, which now is not there because they're rebuilding it. So God, again, God.
Yeah.
And they had to bring him into the living room because his room is small, and they needed to do work. And I immediately threw on some clothes because we were in our pajamas.
Sure.
And I got my purse out. I knew exactly what needed to be done. And we had just been to the doctor prior to that. So I had his medicines in a bag, and everything was ready. Everything had been prepared. I don't know a better word. But I was talking to the lead paramedic, and he was asking me a bunch of questions. And I remember looking down, and he's like, I got a faint pulse. And that's when I was like, all right, here we go. And they're like, okay, we're loading him up. We're going to take him in. We're going to Seton and Kyle. Immediately got on the phone. I couldn't talk yet. So I messaged a gentleman, Pastor Sterling. He is a part of our old church at Vertical, and he just has done amazing things with us and our family. And messaged him right away. I need everybody to start praying. And then I called our current pastor, which Rocky had already made a good friendship with. And I was like, hey, Pastor Trevor. I think I actually left a voicemail for him. I can't remember, but I was like, I'm headed there now. And by the time I got to the hospital, he had already called or texted and said, are you okay? What's going on? I'm like, I'm okay. We're just figuring out what's going to happen next. But I just knew that's what needed to be done. I needed people to start praying.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. I'm sure you've probably been asked this, but I mean, you came to, when did he come to after?
Let's see. Tuesday.
I don't know why I was there. I have no idea.
Maybe about 4.5, 5 days. They had a process, which they explained to me very lengthily from the first day on. We're going to give him the best chance, but don't expect and don't have hope. And I was like, oh, you don't know my God, immediately.
Yeah. Some in the medical profession, God bless them for what they do. I believe they work in concert with God, whether they acknowledge him or not. They're on the same team. Right. God is a healer. One of his redemptive names is Jehovah Rapha, the Lord our healer. So that's characteristic. That's his nature. It's who he is, what he does. But some in the medical field don't acknowledge him as being the great physician. So they have that bedside manner that's just like, well, we're going to do what we can, but
very pessimistic.
I got to golf later, and So we'll see how it goes. You know. So, but yeah, it sounds like you had. I spoke with you a little bit last week, leading up to this, and you definitely had your Shunammite woman moment from 2 Kings chapter 4, where she has this child and the child dies, and everyone's like, "Hey, what's going on?" It is well. Every time someone asked her, "It is well."
It's just one of those things where it's like. right up to this, having Rocky and my daughter, they both have problems with anxiety and depression. I just leaned on God, right? Even before this started happening, I started leaning on God because I was like, I can't do this alone. I can't do this. And some days I would just like, the shower, cry because it's a lot of pressure even on being a parent.
Sure.
And are they going to be okay? So when this happened, I was like, God, you're preparing me. You're preparing me for this. I trust you faithfully. We knew of another family that we literally saw a miracle happen, and cancer was cured in their daughter. And we got to see that with our own eyes. And I just remember, that first moment being in the hospital and just going, I know I've seen your miracles. I've seen your miracles, and I know you're God of miracles. But I also know that Rocky belongs to you. And I know that you will do what is necessary for Rocky and not what I want. And I remember just feeling that and just knowing that I'm giving this up to God. That was the first time I've ever really given something to God and said, yes, my human nature, I'm worrying, I'm crying, I'm scared.
Yeah, having kids puts that in a whole different perspective, right?
It does.
It's one thing if I trust God with an unknown future or something like that, but when you have potential and you have what you want to be the best of you, to send them out there and let them live. And eventually, the whole idea of arrows used as a picture of, your children, as arrows in a quiver in the hands of a warrior. Thing about arrows is they get shot. They get shot out. You can set them on an aim and everything, and there's all kinds of other variables involved. There's wind. There's all kinds of other things that are going to participate in this act. Yes. And you just don't know. But good on you. Good on you. So about 5 days or so came to.
And they said that he wasn't going to. And the nurses came in that night that they were going to stop everything and just wake him up to see if that was going to happen. And I already knew.
So you're like intubated, and they have you like in a coma, or
medically induced coma, cool the body down to around 80 degrees to make, or something like that, and to make sure that the heart and the lungs, because that's when they found out a lung had collapsed due to pneumonia. So he was really sick. So not only is they're trying to get him to breathe, but these machines are trying to suction out everything that was in his lungs prior to even being there, and he looked horrible. I mean, it looked horrible. Like it looked horrible.
You're just talking about like the overall circumstance.
Just the overall.
It's bleak. This does not look hopeful at all. He was
purple because he's cold.
Like, I physically looked horrible.
Yeah.
He was, purple. He had, his face was all bloodshot due to trauma. And they cool them, then they slowly warm them back up after a period of time. And once they hit that temperature, which it took a lot longer, there was some things that kind of happened in between. All the nurses come in, and I didn't know what was going on because they were just like, they looked so sad. And I'm just like looking at them like, why are y'all so sad? This is the moment I've been waiting for.
Yeah.
And everybody's praying. And one nurse, I remember holding my hand, and she sat down on the couch with me, and I'm like, I want to be over there by the bed where I can see. And they said, Rocky, open your eyes. And Rocky, open your eyes. And he opened his eyes, and he looked the direction of the voice, and they were just elated. And it was like a fishbowl because there's glass everywhere, and there's nurses from the whole floor, and they're just celebrating, like cheering and crying. And they're like, Mom, come up here. And so I go to the other side, and then they're like, I was like, Rocky. And turned his head, and he looked at me again and responded to pain, because that's the first thing he wanted to know, because they didn't know because of the situation of the suicide. They didn't know, and everything was working. And I was like, see, my God is good. Like, I was just like, see what can happen. See this miracle.
Did you say you had some believers that were nurses too that were caring for him?
Yes, they were putting their hands on him and praying over him, because at that time, we didn't know what was going to happen, so we didn't want his friends to see him again because he looked horrible. I didn't want other kids to see what he looked like, and I wanted to respect his privacy because deep down in my heart, I knew he was going to wake up. I knew he was going to wake up. So the only people that actually had come in to see him, Pastor Sterling, Pastor Trevor, Rachel, who was another part of our youth group, and physically hands praying. And then the nurses that were around us, I'm pretty open about my faith.
Sure.
So they knew they could talk to me about stuff, and they would come and just sit or catch me in the hallway. We're praying for Rocky. I just want you to know we're praying, two doors down, there's a 15-year-old passing away. He's not going to make it. And it was a car accident. And so it's like being that close to another set of parents who are just devastated because they know for sure that he wasn't coming back. And they just needed that positivity. And God showed up big time. He showed up for those nurses, and he showed up for the doctor who didn't believe. I didn't tell you about this part. So they made us leave for a little while because they do some things like they don't want us in there because COVID again.
Sure.
They're going to do like a port or something. And I left, and then I was coming back around, and I heard him talking on the phone. So I just kind of like waited. I didn't want to go past him. I kind of wanted to just kind of stay away from him, his energy. But he was on the phone, and it was after he woke up. He was telling another doctor, "You're not going to believe this." He woke up, and he feels all his motor functions are fine. He's moving his head, he's moving his arms, he's wiggling his fingers, he wiggled his toes. They're getting him to do like kind of like things like this, and he's like, "You're just not going to believe this. It's astonishing." But he did not use that word miracle.
Yeah.
But he was already witnessing to somebody else. And he didn't even know.